Welcome to the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, presented by best-selling author, speaker, and sales and business growth consultant, Archer Atlas. And here's your host, Archer Atlas.
All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, presented by me, Archer Atlas. First order of business. If you'd like to get free transcripts, show notes, and updates to this podcast, simply go to the atlascast.com, where you can subscribe and get these delivered to your inbox. You'll also get 2 free gifts as a thank you for subscribing. You'll get my best-selling book, Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, as well as the audio program, Going Up, How to Generate More and Better Leads Quickly and Inexpensively. Just go to the atlascast.com to get it all for free. All right, this is episode 2 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business. The 1% conclusion, and Voulez, vous, Cocher avec moi. It's a funny title, I know, but in a minute it's going to make perfect sense to you, and it's actually going to help you grow your business and bottom line. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to cover what I call the 1% conclusion, as I promised last episode. This is a way for any business to grow their bottom line significantly by making small, easy-to-make improvements in key areas, and we'll cover this top to bottom. It's actually very simple. We'll also go over how to generate more and better qualified leads, and why lead generation should be your number one focus when it comes to customer and client acquisition. All right, let's jump right in. As I touched upon briefly already, the 1% conclusion is something I've developed to demonstrate that pretty much any business, including yours, can make dramatic improvements to their bottom line profits by simple, small, easy-to-make improvements in key areas. It's actually only 3 key areas. And if you could make improvements in these areas, even tiny improvements, like even 1% improvements, you could see your bottom line grow significantly. Let's cut to the chase. The 3 areas I'm talking about are price, orders, and expenses. If you can improve these 3 areas by just 1%, you could see bottom line growth of over 14% typically, and I'll show you exactly how. Let me quickly go over an example of this in action so you can see it for yourself, because this is actually something that was kind of unbelievable to me when I first discovered the concept. I mean, really, you're telling me that I can grow my business's bottom line, its profits, and what I can take directly out of the company by 14% just by making these 3 small improvements of 1%? And believe it or not, this is actually the case. Okay, let's take a hypothetical company, and I'm going to do this with some easy round numbers. Let's take a hypothetical company that's doing $5 million a year in revenue. That number isn't important. It could be 500,000, could be 5 billion. What's important is the percentages. So this company does $5 million a year in revenue. And let's say they work on a 20% profit margin, which brings their profits to $1 million a year. You with me so far? All right. So I'm going to show you when it's all said and done, and this company makes 3 small 1% improvements, that this will add an additional 14% or $140,000 to their bottom line. So let's do it. First off, we're going to need some more numbers for this equation. Now don't worry, this isn't exactly calculus or any kind of difficult math we'll be doing. This company does $5 million a year in revenue. Let's say they get to that number by selling 5,000 units, or say 5,000 total orders worth $1,000 a piece. So 5,000 orders times $1,000 per order gives them $5 million a year in revenue. All right. Now remember, this company has a profit margin of 20%, giving them $1 million in profits per year. That means they have $4 million in expenses. All right. We now have the numbers needed to apply the 1% conclusion with this company. So the 3 small 1% improvements for the 1% conclusion are improvements in price, units sold, and expenses. A 1% improvement in price brings the price per order up to $1,010 from $1,000. A 1% improvement in orders brings total orders to 5,050 from 5,000. And a 1% improvement, meaning a decrease in expenses, brings expenses down to $3,960,000 from $4 million. By the way, If these numbers all seem out of this world big to you, just shave off a 0. The percentages remain the same, and that's what we're really talking about here. Conversely, if this seems like small business chump change to you, tack on a 0 or 2. Like I said, the percentages remain the same, and that's really what we're talking about here. So we're talking about small improvements having a big impact on a company's bottom line. Now let me ask you, do you think these can be realistically done? I mean, honestly, for most businesses, the answer is an emphatic yes. Just think of it this way. The price went up 1%, only $10 on a $1,000 order. Orders went up by 1%. That's only 50 more orders for a company doing 5,000 orders per year. It's a little more than 4 more orders per month. And this company that previously had expenses of $4 million found a way to drop $40,000 from its total costs. That's it. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a company that can't do these 3 small improvements. More likely, any company that says they can't make these is just making excuses. And excuses make no one money. They're for the other guys, right? All right, let's put this all together and show the 14% improvement to the bottom line, and then we'll talk about how you can do this in your business. So, this company now does 5,050 orders at an average price of $1,010. That brings revenue to $5,100,500. So those 2 1% improvements added an extra $100,500 to their top line, their revenue. Subtract the $3,960,000 in expenses this company now has after shaving off 1% of their costs, and you now have bottom line profits of $1,140,500 for this company. That right there is a 14.50% improvement to their bottom line. It's an extra $140,500 in profits. Now, obviously, these bottom line improvements have a lot to do with the initial profit margin for the company. Businesses with tighter margins can see even more drastic and amazing bottom line improvements with the 1% conclusion. Companies with better margins, not so much. For a company with 10% profit margins, they'll see an around 29% bottom line improvement. On the other hand, a company with a 30% profit margin will see an around 9% bottom line increase by using the 1% conclusion. All right, so that's the 1% conclusion in a hypothetical sense used on a hypothetical company. Let's quickly talk about applying it in real life to your business. First off, to improve these numbers, you have to know them. I'm sure you know your numbers right now, whether exactly or in a roundabout way. But it's worth saying this. Not knowing your numbers means you're flying blind. You're not really in business. You're in a hobby if that's the case. Okay, so obviously you know your numbers probably about as good as you can. Let's talk about the 3 improvements you can make with the 1% conclusion. First off, an easy one, price. Can you raise your prices 1%? Just 1%. Now odds are you're undercharging anyway, so the answer to this should be yes. For most of you, you're long overdue for a price increase, and your goods and services certainly merit it. Now, some people get a little uneasy when you talk about raising prices with them. They think they'll turn people off or lose customers, both of which are wrong, to be honest. But there's something else at play here, too. Inflation. Look, it simply costs more money to buy everything nowadays. You see the prices for everything lately? I think my grandfather would have a heart attack just going grocery shopping today if he were still alive. You see the record prices for beef lately? So inflation, it costs more for everything. Everything including what it takes to make your goods and services. So raise your prices. Now 1% isn't going to be noticed much at all. This hypothetical company, by the way, they raised their prices from $1,000 to $1,010. You think anyone that ordered even noticed that extra $10 tacked on? The answer is no. Now getting back to the groceries for a second, let's say you're consistent. And let's say that your grocery bill has been $100. Now let's say the grocer raised prices 1%, and let's say your bill now is $101. What would you do? Would you stop buying groceries? Would you protest? Would you throw a fit? Would you decide to make that dollar back by stealing? Consequently, grocery shoplifting is up big time, and the number 1 item stolen is meat. whose prices have gone up over 14.5% since last year, which was up from the year before that and so on. The next most common stolen items are baby formula and razors. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Raise your prices. No one is going to even notice. And even the ones that do, they won't leave because of it. Seriously. Next up, orders. There are hundreds of ways to increase order frequency, and we're going to cover a lot of them in the coming episodes of this show. But for right now, I'd say the easiest, fastest way to increase this number is to just ask for more orders. The more you ask, the more you'll get. By the way, I just mentioned that people don't leave because of price increases. But you know the number one reason why your customers, why they leave? Indifference on your part. Asking for more orders not only means you'll get more orders, but it makes your customers more likely to stay with you. That's a win-win right there if I've ever seen one. Here's a quick example so that you can't say I don't practice what I preach. Because you're listening to this podcast, I have a special offer for you right now. Get my latest course on udemy.com. Get more customers and clients now for just $7. That's it. Just go to the atlascast.com/offer and you'll get the entire 4-hour course for only $7. And it's worth at least 7,000 times that amount. Seriously. That's the atlascast.com/offer. I'm taking this page down at the end of the month, so be sure to grab it while it's there. Okay, so just ask for the order. That will increase your order frequency 100% of the time. Alright, last of the 1% improvements, costs. All you need is a 1% improvement. Even the best run businesses in the world can do this easily. It's just 1%. Fire that underachieving cousin or limit the amount of paper and pens your employees take home. Seriously, there's thousands of ways to decrease this number by 1%. It ain't hard, and you've probably already done it just now by simply thinking about it. Alright, so that's how to apply the 1% conclusion. It's really a powerful concept, and it's really kind of unbelievable that such small improvements can have such a large impact on your bottom line. Okay, let's wrap up this show and move on to the next order of business. Voulez vous coucher avec moi ce soir? For those of you that have somehow never heard that song, don't know its context, or don't speak French, I don't either. That line is from Patti LaBelle's 1970s song, Lady Marmalade. Voulez vous coucher avec moi? And it means, would you like to go to bed with me tonight? Or at least that's what I think it means. Anyway, what does this have to do with growing your business and getting more people to raise their hands and qualify themselves for you? I don't know. I just thought it was a cool line and thought it would catch your attention. No, seriously, it has a lot to do with it. Most businesses make the mistake of doing things bass-ackwards. They're in constant selling mode, trying to get new customers and not selling at all when it comes to existing customers. Instead, the smartest way to approach customer acquisition is to not sell. And the best way to make more sales is to always be selling or making offers to existing customers. Now, don't get me wrong. You want new customers to buy more, and buy more often. But the way to do that isn't to be constantly selling to people who aren't your customers yet. Let me clarify this because it's important. I call this concept the target triangle. Now, most of you listening to this are only listening, so you're going to have to use your imagination a bit. I want you to picture a triangle. Now, I want you to cut that triangle up into 5 sections, with the top section only being a little sliver that makes up the 3% of the tip top of the triangle, and the next section only taking up 7%. Those 2 sections only make up 10% together. The next 3 sections are all 30% each. You with me? Alright. This triangle represents all the people that buy products and services like yours, regardless of whatever it is you sell. The top section is the people that are buying now, the ones actively buying. The next section are those open to buying. Now, those 2 sections, only 10%. Those 2 sections, the 10% of total buyers, are the only people you have a chance of selling to if you're actively trying to sell to them. That's it. The 3% buying now and the 7% open to buying. Now, this is where most businesses operate. The 90% below that consists of people that aren't thinking about what you offer, think they're not interested, and the last group who will never buy from you for any reason whatsoever. So, when you actively sell to all the total buyers, you're only going to be on the radar of 10%, and in all likelihood, you'll only be able to sell to the 3% who are looking to buy right now. Why would you limit yourself like that? Trying to get people to buy right then and there is a lot like a man going up to random women and asking them, would you like to go to bed with me as soon as they meet? Voulez, vous coucher avec moi? Yes, that foolish man will get some of these random women to say yes, but he'll also get more than a few face slaps as well. And yes, you will get some of the people buying now to say yes to you, and you might even get some of the people who are open to buying to say yes to you if you're good. But you're completely abandoning your chances with 90% of all the buyers who buy what you sell, and a full 2/3 of that 90% are attainable for you if you're smart and act strategically. Anyway, we're going to cover this a lot more in later episodes, and you can be absolutely sure of that. But for right now, what's important to know is this. Selling, and selling alone, severely limits your ability to get more new customers and clients. Instead, act more strategically, and instead of actively selling to people and only capturing the attention of 10% tops, start actively generating qualified leads who you could sell to now, if they're in that top two sections, the 3 to 10%, later, if they're in the next two sections, and for years to come after they are your clients. The last thing I'll say is this. Who do you have a better chance of eventually acquiring as a customer or client? A person you sell to once, either with them paying some attention and possibly saying yes, or someone you have the ability to sell to multiple times because you've captured their attention. You've had them come to you, you've interacted with them, and you've qualified them. At the very least, this will bring you much more highly qualified prospects, and that alone is going to help you grow your clientele, your revenue, and your bottom line profits. Remember, a person that is actively looking to buy or someone that is open to buying is still going to buy from you if you qualify them, then sell them. But you have no chance at all of capturing anyone from that other 90% if all you're doing is selling. All right, that wraps up this episode. Next time out, we'll dig more deeply into generating qualified leads and getting more prospects to raise their hands and come to you. I look forward to seeing you then. Oh, one last thing. Well, really two. A reminder. You can get my latest course on Udemy for only $7 by going to the atlascast.com/offer. That's TheAtlascast.com/OFFER. It's an amazing program, honestly, and worth at least 1,000 times that price. But as a thank you for listening, you can get it for only $7. And like I said, I'll be pulling this offer down at the end of the month, so act now while you can. Lastly, if you'd like to get the show notes, transcripts, and updates when new shows are released, head over to theatlascast.com and subscribe. You'll get all of that plus 2 free gifts. My best-selling book, Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and the audio program, Going Up, How to Generate More and Better Leads Quickly and Inexpensively. All as a thank you for listening. Just head over to theatlascast.com and subscribe. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this show. This ends our second episode of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, presented by me, 1970s disco connoisseur, fantastic golfer, and all-around nice guy, Archer Atlas. Thank you for being here. Catch you next time when we cover how to really generate more and better qualified leads and have them come to you. I'll see you then.